Dogworks Radio is sponsored by Alaska Dogworks. Check out their website at alaskadogworks.com. Dogworks Radio Network presents Mushing Radio, hosted by Robert Forto. Mushing Radio is about dog-powered sports, living in the Great White North, and mushing. Visit our website at mushingradio.com. Here is your host, Robert Forto.
Hello and welcome everybody. This is Robert Forto and you're listening to Mushing Radio here on KVRF 89.7 in the Mat-Su Valley. RadioFreePalmer.org is our live streaming site. You can find all of our episodes over on dogworksradio.com. And follow us on social media by searching for Dogworks Radio. And today, calling in from Evergreen, Colorado, is Brooke Kish, and she is one of the gals that's going to be racing over in Sweden at the World Championships in the Canicross class, which is her and her dog, Charlie.
Brooke, how's it going?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I am well, thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. Can you do us a favor and tell us who you are and what you're all about, please?
So I am I'm a child psychologist and a runner, and got into this sport about a year ago and adopted a German short-haired pointer after my first dog passed away. We did a little bit of genetic testing and realized he had some German short-haired pointer in him. So I went to a rescue group to get my current dog, Charlie, and that started a run with him, and that's kind of how I ended up here.
And now you're heading over to the world stage, going to be running in the Canicross event with some of the best racers in the world. What do you think about that?
I'm going over there to learn. I have no assumptions or expectations right now. So, it's pretty wild. I was thinking of doing it last year, and I didn't, and then I regretted it, and then I got selected again for this year. My husband just said just to go for it. So I went and booked a plane ticket, and now we're headed over to Sweden in October. It's wild. I never in a million years would have imagined doing this.
So, Brooke, you had mentioned that you had a dog that recently passed away. Then you got your new dog, Charlie. Before that, did you know anything about the mushing community or Canicross on kind of the big scale like you're running in? Or were you just the typical pet owner that occasionally liked to go out and run with their dog?
That's right. I had no idea this even existed. And when I got Charlie, I didn't run him until he was 1. I got him as a puppy from the Mile High Rescue Group in Denver. And I started to recognize his energy levels and started to just do some training runs with him. And then started to just go into some local 5K races, and we ended up starting just that we were undefeated. And I realized since he's dog-powered, it's probably not really fair to be running in just open races. So then I started to search regular like charity runs where everybody had a dog. And then we continued to do well. And so I went to a charity event with the Mile High German Short-Haired Pointer Rescue Group, and I was talking to somebody, and I just shared what we were doing, and they said, well, that's actually a sport. And then I started to talk to Janet Saxon, and she said, yeah, that's actually a mushing sport. And so then I researched Canicross as much as possible, and here we are now. I couldn't believe it's an actual real sport with real races, and it's called Canicross. So I was just kind of an average runner, running with Charlie in local events and doing well, and I didn't even know it was a thing until last year.
So, Brooke, you had mentioned that you'd been an average runner before. Were you involved with track and field in like high school or college or something like that? Where did your running background come from?
Yeah, so the running background, I started running in high school. I went to high school out in New Jersey, and in more of the rural area of New Jersey, and they didn't have a women's team, so they put me on the boys' team. So I was the only girl high school cross country runner. We did have a small girls track team, so that's where I started my running career, and then ended up running for Rutgers University cross country, track and field. And then after graduating Rutgers, my husband and I moved out to Colorado, and it's just a running mecca. So I ended up joining some clubs and continued on with it post-collegiately. So I just haven't really stopped. I'm now a master's runner, so 43 years old, and I can't seem to put the sport down. So that's sort of my background, is I've just been running pretty much since high school.
Wow. You had mentioned master's runner. What is that exactly?
So in track and field world, a master's runner starts when you're 40 years of age, and then they start opening events dedicated only to master's runners, so you can compete against your age level, or they modify times to see where you would rank compared with younger runners, called age grading. And so they do that in the track and field cross country. USATF, United States Track and Field Associations, has a whole circuit of masters running, and you get to join that when you hit 40.
Well, I'm of the same age group, and I didn't know anything about. I don't know anything about track and field itself, but I definitely did not know about a special class of running events for folks in their 40s. So now that you have a running partner with you, with Charlie, what did you do to train for this adventure you guys are going on in a couple of months when you're heading over to Sweden? Did you guys do a lot of Canicross events already? As you had mentioned, you did several charity events and 5Ks and all that, but did you get out and run with the best of them in the local area?
Yeah, we have, luckily, Colorado has an association called Colorado Mountain Mushers, and they put on a series of events starting in the fall when the temperatures get a little cooler, and it's more up in the mountain areas, and they put on a whole slew of events all through fall and through winter. And so I hooked up with them and did my first race with them last year, and I wasn't sure of the rules. So when we were racing our very first race, he went number 2, and then he went number 1, and I didn't know the rules, so I'm there picking everything up, and that took about a whole minute off the time. So they, to this day, still kind of make fun of me for that, but they're just such a great group of people, and that's something that I've learned really quickly, is the mushing community is just solid, just such nice group of people. And then I went out to Wisconsin, in Parson, Wisconsin, and I raced in a competitive Canicross race and called the Red Paw Dirty Dog Race, I believe. And just a wonderful group of people, and we did well there. And that's sort of what launched me into where I am now, is connecting with everyone and learning from them and trying to figure out which races to do, and so on. So luckily, Colorado does have a chapter of mushing groups that I can actually do a real Canicross race and not just a road race.
I have spoken to a few of you guys now that are heading over there to run with the team, and a few of those guys and gals have been part of the Canicross group. But I don't think we've ever spoken about the rules. You had mentioned you didn't know all of the rules going in, and you had to pretty much learn on site. Can you tell our listeners what the rules are and what this is all about? I think people have a pretty good understanding that you're hooking up a dog to your belt and you're taking off down the trail. But what are some of the things that you can or cannot do out on the trail?
Yeah, well, dogs first. So Charlie is number 1. So if he's in any, kind of distress, we stop and take care of him. And if it's too hot, we don't race. It's, you want to make sure he's hydrated, and you pass, you want to, pass with tact, and you want to, call out what you're doing before you pass. And that's something I'm kind of learning right now how to do. And then, with the very first rule is that in some races you can pick up. So if he goes to the bathroom, you can pick that up after the race, and I didn't know that, so I was taking time and picking everything up, and then running with the poopy bag and things like that. But I think the number one rule that I'm aware of is dogs go out first. Sometimes there's mass starts, and sometimes there's staggered starts. And first, the fastest person to start usually goes first. And so the rules I'm also kind of just learning as we go, but there's a whole list of rules that usually read before the race, because every race seems to be slightly different in what you do, what you can't do. Basically, yeah, you just you just run with the dog and he pulls you, and I think they're pretty simple compared to the other rules and some of the other events that they have.
So you had mentioned going out on a mass start and other rules that you were mentioning. Do you know how far the course is over in Sweden when you're heading over?
So it's going to be slightly this year. They alternate, shorter and then longer. And the longer, probably. So this year it's a longer course, which probably doesn't seem longer to the traditional mushers, but it's a 4.8 course, so it's slightly under a 5K. And I think it's sort of an odd distance because they measure that based on how long the trail is too. Here in the States, everything seems to be very even of a 5K or 6K, but out there it's going to be a 4.8. So it's going to go pretty quickly, and then you race for 2 days, and they average the times together.
And I have asked everyone that's been on the show so far about what are your thoughts about heading literally across the world to run an event that's only going to take a matter of minutes. What can you share about that?
Right. I know my mind goes to those track and field runners, the guys that do the 100 meters, in like 9 seconds. They travel, and it's just for 9 seconds, and you do all this training. It's just such a short period of time. It's intense, so you want things to go well. It definitely adds pressure. You want your dog to be healthy and get through the travels fine. So you take every single precaution that you possibly can to get so Charlie can get over there. I'm meeting with his veterinarian tomorrow just to process and problem solve to make sure we have a most successful trip over as we can to get him to that start line healthy. But yes, it's a short event compared to something like the Iditarod or something like that. But it's tough to find the competition around here, so you really also want to just see where you're ranked internationally also. And it's also a team event, so I think there's 14 of us going over, and it's also just the experience and for the learning. So I'm really thinking it's going to be worthwhile. Hopefully it will be. Occasionally you hear those awful stories, but yeah.
Yeah, I think you're going to have a great time over there. I was just talking to a friend of mine just the other day, and he had talked about going over to Europe to race, and he was a 4-dog racer, and he got over there, and he had to scratch within the first couple of minutes of getting on his. He said, "Oh my goodness, I've spent hundreds of hours and thousands of dollars to come over and run a mile in the race." But that's sort of the nature of athletics, isn't it?
It is. Yep, it is. It's unique where you just you can't predict everything. You only have control over so much. So with what you have control on, you try to make the best of it, but I feel for him. So, chalk it up to a great learning experience. Like, this is what you have to do with that.
Of course. So, Brooke, you had mentioned that you ran in high school, you ran in college, and of course you continue to run as an adult. But can you compare and contrast a little bit between what you're used to running in, say, a college cross country? I know it's a much further distance, but you don't have a dog attached to you. Can you give our listeners a little perspective about competing on your own versus competing with somebody else that's literally running the race right with you?
Right. So I think in terms of mile pace, at least a minute faster. Maybe it depends. I mean, that's what you're wanting, but you're definitely much, much faster with the dog attached to you pulling, and it's a lot less effort as well. But your turnover has to be real quick because you're trying to keep up with your dog. Charlie just pulls and pulls. So I think in terms of just times, I think we were running when Charlie and I ran that race in Wisconsin, we were running 4:48 pace for a mile. I think it was a mile and a half, or maybe something like a mile and a half. 4:48 pace through a cross country course. And on my own, I probably would have been running about maybe 5:10, maybe 5:20 on that course. It was kind of a rolling cross country course, so he definitely shaves off at least 30 seconds to a minute per mile, I would say, and even more when you're going on a terrain like downhill, I would say.
Wow. I remember when I was in high school in the early 80s or so, and a 7-minute mile was fast then. And you're talking about 5-minute miles, 4.5-minute miles. You're really smoking down the trail, aren't you?
Yeah, especially when Charlie's attached. Yeah, I think in the world, I was looking at results results from Poland in the last World Canicross race, and the winners, they were the first, second, and third women were all running. It was slightly under a 5K, and they were running around 4:24 pace, 4:30 pace with their dog. So it's
pretty dang
fast day. Yep.
Right. So you had mentioned that you live in Evergreen, and I'm very familiar with that part of the country. As I mentioned off air, I used to live in Bailey, and you live in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains there in Evergreen. Do you get a lot of chances to go out and run in the mountains? And if you do, is that at all comparable to what you're going to be running in Sweden, or is it relatively flat there, or do you know?
Right. So Evergreen is in the foothills, and it's sort of in between foothills, and it's a lot of hills. So it's very, very tough to find a flat section in Evergreen to train on. So I take advantage of any little, even if it's just 400 meters of a flat section, I take advantage of that and try to go hard on those kinds of. But where I live, luckily, there's trails right up behind the house. I live right by open space, so I can attach him to that bungee line and go in the morning and hardly see anybody out. So we have the trails to ourselves, but they are very, very hilly. And so we also have a track. So what happens is I usually do track workouts about twice a week, and so my husband on those days will take Charlie because he's dying to run too, and I feel bad if I'm take him on the track. So at the high school. So, but my husband will take him up on the trails. So Charlie runs hilly trails pretty much 6 days a week, and the trails out in Sweden are going to be, from what I'm hearing, pretty nice, and in my perspective, they're going to be flat. So it's going to be also less altitude. I believe I live at 7,500 feet, and so when we train, we're between usually 7,500 to 8,000 feet high. And so I'm hoping I haven't researched it, but I'm hoping I'm going down in altitude, and then also the train's going to be better. I personally like the flat and fast, so my husband loves the rolling trails and mountains, so the training out here is pretty tough.
It sounds like it's a perfect opportunity for you for sure. Brooke, I have just a couple of questions before we end our show here. The first one is, are you heading over there early or staying later to enjoy some of the perks of traveling halfway around the world in Sweden? Or are you just one of those athletes that flies in, does their event, packs up, and goes home?
I would love to go and take some time, but unfortunately, I'm going to have 8 days. So with my work schedules and things like that, and I also have twins that I need to be home for by Halloween. I'm going to be flying out there. It's going to be short and sweet. So I get out there October 21st, and then I get back home on the 28th. So it's going to be mostly get out there, do your vet checks, do your 2 or 3 days of racing, and then fly back home. But luckily my best friend and college roommate is going to come along with me. So it'll be a little bit of, hopefully fun times and maybe going out to eat and seeing what's around locally.
You can't miss out on the food for sure. All right, Brooke, I have one final question, and it's a question I ask everybody that's on our show, and that is if somebody came up to you and asked for advice on getting involved in your sport, and in particular canicross, what would you tell them?
Yes, that's the goal here. I would love to have more people get involved and just trying to be kind of an ambassador. I'm hoping I'm going to be considered not like slow, if the sport can just get a little more popular, because I know that there's so much opportunity is left in this sport. But I would say one piece of advice is to get the correct harness. So I've been to races around the state here, and people are coming to races with choke collars on and pinch collars on, and then they're expecting the dog to pull. So I would expect just to look for the best harness possible. I know I use the Nonstop dog wear harness and bungee cord, and Charlie loves that, and I know there's others like the Nooksack and things like that. But that would probably be the first piece of advice, and then just to have fun with it, and that you don't have to be super fast to enjoy running with a dog. You do so much just in itself. You don't have goals of coming in first or anything like that. So and then maybe seeking out a mushing society or mushing chapter within their state or canicross, because they are becoming more and more popular. So, and then it's a learning experience from others.
Great advice for sure. Brooke, in closing, do you want to thank anybody? Do you have any sponsors or any family that's helped you out along the way?
Definitely my husband, Warren Kish. Want to thank him and all of my family, as well as his parents and sister. They've all been super supportive. And the Mile High Rescue Group, where I got Charlie, and then the Colorado Mountain Mushers, and then the Nonstop Dog Wear, and of course Team USA. Nick and Joy Weiss have really been the catalyst of getting me involved, and Nina Baum has been especially helpful with everything. So, and then everyone that volunteers and hosts canicross races out in the country. Want to thank them as well, and thank you for getting the word out too.
Well, thank you very much, Brooke. It's a pleasure to have you on. I love hearing your guys' stories. Everybody from the hardcore kart racers all the way down to you and Charlie, just you and one dog. They're heading over to represent the team, and I hope you do very well over there. Good luck in Sweden, and good luck to you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. On behalf of my guest today, Brooke Kish, this is Robert Forto for Mushing Radio. We'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.
From DogWorks Radio, this is Mushing Radio. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we invite you to subscribe in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll find a link on the episode notes. You can tap or swipe on the episode cover art, and you'll see some offers from our sponsors. You can support our show by supporting them. If you like what you have heard, we would love it if you could give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe too. Your hosts are Alex Stein and Robert Forto. Our producer is Robert Forto, created for DogWorks Radio. Did you know that Alaska DogWorks trains service dogs for those in need throughout North America? Each and every service dog that is trained through the Lead Dog Service Dog Program and Michelle Forto and her team has an individual training plan. We train for autistic, mobility, psychiatric, and PTSD for our soldiers for service work. If you know of someone that may need a service dog, please take a moment and check out Alaska DogWorks on social media and at alaskadogworks.com.